In the stillness of a private hospital room, where the ticking clock is the only sound, a man lies motionless. His name is Adrian Coleman, who once ruled boardrooms, signed million-dollar deals, and built empires with the stroke of a pen. To the world, he is a patient in a coma. But behind his closed eyes, Adrian is wide awake. He hears everything. He feels everything. And yet, he says nothing. Why? Because Adrian has chosen silence. He wants to know who truly cares, who speaks from the heart when they believe he cannot hear. Day after day, nurses come and go, treating him like any other patient. Some are gentle, others mechanical. But one nurse, Emily, heart moves differently. Her touch is soft, her voice kind, her presence warm like sunlight on a cold day. Adrian notices her. He listens when she hums while fixing his blanket, when she sighs softly after long shifts. And then, one quiet evening, when Emily believes she is alone, she leans closer to his bed and whispers a confession that will change everything. Adrian Cole had lived most of his life surrounded by wealth, but now, he lay in silence, unable to move, pretending to be lost in darkness. It was strange how a man with everything could feel so empty. The machines beside him beeped steadily, reminding him of each passing second. He thought about the people in his life, business partners who praised him when the money flowed, friends who disappeared when the spotlight dimmed, and family members who called only when they needed something. In this room, stripped of power and possessions, Adrian felt more human than he had in years, vulnerable, forgotten, invisible. But not to Emily. She entered the room with steady footsteps, carrying a tray of medicine. She always greeted him, even though he never replied. "Good evening, Mr. Cole," she whispered kindly, as if his silence didn't bother her. Her voice soothed him, like a gentle song he didn't know he needed. And though he could not respond, he felt something stirred deep inside, something more valuable than all the wealth he owned. Night at the hospital carried a different silence. The halls grew quiet, and shadows stretched across the walls. Emily, after tending to all her patients, often returned to Adrian's room. She claimed it was routine, but deep inside, there was more. She carried small gestures with her. Sometimes it was a flower she bought on the way to work. Other times it was a new blanket to replace the rough hospital one. She spoke to him as though he could hear, telling him about her day, about the silly mistakes she made, about the laughter she shared with other nurses. Adrian listened, absorbing every word. Each story pulled him closer to a truth he had long ignored, that life's value was not measured in profit, but in simple moments of kindness. When Emily gently placed the flower in the vase and smiled, Adrian felt a lump form in his throat. He could not see her fully with his eyes closed, but he felt her presence. And in that presence, he found comfort he hadn't known in years. One evening, rain tapped gently against the glass, a rhythm that filled the room with quiet music. Emily stood by the bed, carefully adjusting Adrian's blanket. But tonight, something weighed on her heart. Her eyes lingered on him longer than usual. She traced the lines on his face, the strength hidden beneath stillness. She bit her lip, holding back words she dared not say aloud. Finally, in a voice barely louder than the rain, she whispered, "I don't know why, but I feel like you can hear me." Adrian's heart nearly skipped. She was right. Every word touched him, but he forced himself to remain still. Emily sighed and sat in the chair beside him. "Sometimes, I talk to you because it feels like you're listening, and maybe I just need someone to listen." Her words cut deeper than any silence ever could. Adrian wanted to reach out, to tell her she was not alone, but he stayed hidden behind the mask of his coma. And so, the truth remained unspoken. Least for now. Days turned into weeks. Emily's presence became a rhythm in Adrian's silent world. Yet, beneath her gentle smile, Adrian sensed a quiet sorrow. She worked tirelessly, always giving, always caring, but when she thought no one was watching, her face told another story. One night, while changing his Emily's hands trembled slightly. She paused, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. "Stay strong," she whispered, though it sounded like she was speaking to herself as much as to him. Adrian wondered what pain she carried. She was young, yet her eyes looked older, filled with responsibilities and struggles no one else seemed to see. He wanted to break his silence, to ask her what burden she bore. But still, he remained still, listening. Sometimes, he realized, silence wasn't only a test, it was also a prison, and Adrian was trapped inside it, aching to respond. It was on a particularly quiet night when Emily reached for his hand. Her fingers trembled as they touched his. She looked down at him, her voice shaking. Mr. Cole, I don't know if you can hear me, but I need to tell someone. Her grip tightened slightly. Adrian felt the warmth of her hand, the fragility in her touch. I'm tired, she confessed softly. Every day, I give my best to patients, but when I go home, there's nothing. My father is sick, the bills keep piling up, and sometimes I wonder if anyone even notices how hard I try. Adrian's chest ached. Each word pierced him, not because it was pity, but because it was truth. She had carried her pain in silence, just as he carried his wealth in loneliness. And for the first time in years, Adrian wished he could speak, to defend himself, not to negotiate a deal but simply to tell her she mattered. After her confession, Emily's voice grew faint. She lowered her head onto the edge of Adrian's bed, her hair falling loosely against the sheets. I'm sorry, she whispered, her words breaking. I shouldn't be saying all this. You don't even know me, but somehow, it feels safe. Here, her breath was uneven, carrying the exhaustion of sleepless nights. Slowly, she closed her eyes, her hand still resting on his dot. Adrian lay still, torn between his disguise and his desire to comfort her. He could feel her pain like it was his own. All his life, people had spoken to him with motives, with expectations, but Emily's words were different. They were raw, honest, vulnerable. For the first time in years, Adrian felt more than just a millionaire. He felt like a man, connected to another human soul. And in that fragile connection, his heart began to change. Morning arrived gently, carrying the scent of fresh coffee down the hospital hallways. Adrian's room glowed with golden light, brushing against his face. Emily stirred awake in her chair, her eyes swollen from tears, but her spirit steadier than before. She stood, fixing her uniform, and whispered, "Thank you, Mr. Cole, for listening, even if you don't understand." Adrian's heart tightened. He wanted to tell her he understood more than she knew. He wanted to open his eyes, to sit up, to promise her that she wasn't alone in this world. But still, he remained silent. As Emily left to begin her morning rounds, Adrian realized something powerful. He had entered this coma as a test of others, but it had become something else. A lesson, a chance to see what truly mattered, through the quiet kindness of one nurse who never expected anything in return. And deep inside, he knew he could not stay silent forever. The hospital had grown quiet again. Only the faint hum of machines filled the air. Emily sat close to Adrian, her face pale under the moonlight. Tonight, her heart carried a heavier secret. She looked at him, this silent man who never responded, yet somehow gave her comfort. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Mr. Cole, I need to tell you something no one else knows." She paused, holding her breath, then the truth poured out. "I wanted to be a doctor. I studied, I dreamed, but life didn't give me the chance. My father got sick, I had to work to keep him alive, and the dream slipped away. Sometimes, when I care for you, I imagine what life would have been if things were different." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I don't say this for pity, I just want someone to know that I once dreamed bigger." Adrian's chest ached. He had built empires on ambition, yet here was a woman who sacrificed her own, for love, for family, and suddenly, he realized she was stronger than anyone he had ever met. For the first time since he began his act, Adrian struggled to keep his eyes closed. Her words had struck too deep, and his body betrayed him. His eyelids quivered, his hand twitched faintly. Emily didn't notice. She wiped her eyes and continued softly, "Sometimes I think I'm invisible. Just another nurse in blue, passing through quiet rooms, but with you, I feel seen, even though you can't respond." Adrian's throat burned. He had spent a lifetime being noticed for his wealth, but never for his silence, never for simply existing. And this woman, who thought she was invisible, had just become the brightest light in his world. Inside, a storm raged. Should he reveal the truth now, or keep waiting? afraid of breaking the fragile trust she had placed in him. But as he lay there, trembling with unspoken words, Adrian realized one thing clearly: his life would never be the same again. That night, Emily left the room with slower steps than usual. She glanced back once, her eyes soft, before disappearing into the golden light of the hallway. Adrian remained still, but his mind screamed. He wanted to call out, to say her name, to thank her for the honesty she poured into the silence. Yet the fear held him back, fear that if he spoke too soon, it would all vanish: the raw truth, the sacred confessions, the fragile bond that had bloomed in the quiet. He stared behind closed lids, listening to her footsteps fade. His wealth had given him everything, but in this moment he realized it had also stolen much: his ability to connect, to listen, to be more than just a man of money. But Emily, she was different. She spoke to him as though he was more than his wealth, and that made the silence almost unbearable. When dawn returned, Adrian felt something new in his chest: resolve. He could not remain silent forever. His test had served its purpose. He had heard truth, seen kindness, felt humanity, and now he wanted to respond. As the sun rose, painting the room with light, he listened for the familiar sound of her footsteps. His heart raced at every echo in the hall. When Emily finally entered, carrying fresh linens, Adrian almost spoke. His lips parted slightly, but the words stayed locked. He waited, watching her care for him with the same gentleness as always. And in that moment he knew the truth. His wealth meant nothing if he did not use it to change lives like hers. His silence had been a shield, but now it felt like a chain. Soon, he promised himself, soon, I will open my eyes. That evening, Emily returned to her familiar seat beside him. She looked tired, but her heart seemed lighter, as though sharing her burdens had given her strength. She held his hand gently, her thumb brushing across his skin. I don't know if you'll ever wake up, Mr. Cole, she murmured, but I hope that if you do, you'll remember that someone cared. Adrian's fingers twitched in response. Emily didn't notice, lost in her own quiet thoughts. Inside, Adrian felt a rush of emotion. He had been cared for by many doctors, nurses, assistants, but never like this. Emily didn't treat him as a millionaire or a powerful man. She treated him as human, and that, Adrian realized, was the rarest gift of all. At last, Adrian could no longer hold back. His eyes fluttered open, the world flooding in with light. He blinked, his vision blurring before settling on Emily's gentle face. She hadn't noticed yet. She was speaking softly, almost to herself. I just hope, one day, someone will see the real me. Adrian's lips parted, and for the first time, his voice raspy, broken, but realistic. I see you. Emily froze, her eyes widening, disbelief washing over her features. She turned, meeting his gaze, and tears filled her eyes. You're awake, she whispered, her hand tightening around his. Adrian's throat burned, but he nodded faintly. I heard everything. And in that moment, the silence that had bound them both shattered into something new: connection, truth, and hope. The days that followed were different. Adrian was no longer the silent man. In the bed, he was a man reborn. He told Emily how he had pretended, how he listened, how her words had changed him more than she could ever know. At first, she was shocked, hurt, but as he explained, she saw the sincerity in his eyes. He wasn't mocking her pain. He was honoring it. Adrian promised her that she was not invisible, that her kindness, her strength, her sacrifices deserved more than silent rooms and sleepless nights. And for the first time, he used his wealth not to build empires, but to build hope for her father's treatment, for her dreams of becoming a doctor, for a future she thought she had lost. Emily wept, not from sorrow, but from gratitude, and, as sunlight poured into the room, they sat together, two souls once separated by silence, now connected by truth. Adrian had gone into the coma to test the world, but he awoke realizing the world had tested him instead, and in Emily's presence, he had found the one thing money could never buy: human connection.